Hello. Today we are using my very first curated collection. And if you're asking yourself, what is that? I have stopped doing or receiving art subscription boxes. I've canceled all of those subscriptions. If you saw the video where there's like the tower of boxes, you understand why. It was just getting to the point that I was getting too many things that were duplicated or things that I didn't care to work in. And I just decided that, you know what, I wanted to do something different. So I decided to curate my own collections. And everything is linked in the description below. If you missed the video where I introduced this a couple weeks ago, basically it's like an art subscription box, but there's no subscription and you never have to receive something that you don't want. And if you already have an item, you don't have to get it, which just reduced the cost of getting the collection even more. So this first month, I worked with the folks over at Meeden. They sent me some supplies. Now, full disclosure, yes, they sent me these supplies, but I was already going to choose a set of products from Meeden before I had even reached out to them. It just happened that the original set that I wanted was no longer available, and in reaching out, they offered to send it to me to give them a try and share with you. So I was very happy to do that. They also gave me a code so that you can receive a discount, and that is Clark10, capital CLARK, the number 10. So again, everything is linked below. But today, I know that some of you have ordered this, and I'm so excited. I hope that you've received it and you have it and that you're painting along today. We're going to, wait, that one. We're going to be doing this. Well, the reference photo's right here, but there's my first attempt at it right there. So my first painting, my reference photo. If you need this reference photo, you, excuse me, you can get a copy of it over on Patreon. I did put the link at the top of the live chat. So if you're here with me live, it is there. If you're here on the replay, I'm pretty sure that is also linked below. And you can just head over to patreon.com/ClarkFineArt and you will see it there. You do not have to be a patron to get this. It is free to use this reference photo. So, yes. Okay. Wow, that was a lot. Let me just pause for a moment and say hi to George. And I saw Teresa and Joseph and Tara. And I always feel like it's an episode of Romper Room at the beginning of the stream when I say hi to everybody. Am I aging myself? I don't know. But anyhow, okay. So today we're going to paint this reference, hopefully. And I'm going to take you down to the desk. Okay. In the curated collection, we had the set. That's what I'm working with. So there were the Meeden watercolor paints, the set of 24. You also got the set of Meeden watercolor brushes. So far, I have been loving these brushes. I have used these a bit. Every single one of the ferrules was nice and snug. So not a single loose ferrule, which was wonderful. That's kind of one of the things I've had issues with other less expensive sets of brushes in the recent past. So far I am absolutely enjoying these. They definitely have some snap to them. They are not a really, they're not a really soft brush, they're not like a squirrel hair. They are synthetic, but they would be more like a Kolinsky type of a brush if you're familiar with the two. So they definitely have more snap. I think they are definitely, because of that, going to be very beginner friendly. So far, I definitely recommend these brushes. Excuse me. In addition to the brushes and the set of 24 watercolor paints, you also got a palette like this. Now, today I'm going to be working with 5 colors, and I did list them in the chat, and I will share them with you again here on screen in just a few moments. But if you didn't opt for, because I had a couple add-ons, and if you didn't opt for one of the add-ons, you will be able to use this palette, because we're going to use about 5 colors today, so you'll have plenty of room. So I wanted to make sure that even if you just got this, you'd still have plenty of room for mixing and painting with me during the stream today. In addition to the 24 colors, one of the things I will say that I loved about these watercolors, and I have been painting with them a little bit since I got them, I love that all the information is on the front of the tube. Not only is it on the front of the tube, it also includes the pigment information, the light fast rating, whether it's opaque or semi-transparent or transparent. All of that information you'll find right on the front of the tube. You see right here. And this is, you know, supposed to be like indicative of what the color is. So there is the 24 tubes of paint and a Meeden 100% cotton cold press watercolor block. I love this paper. I've told you guys that before I even chose to work with Meeden. And excuse me, that was actually one of the reasons that I wanted to try more. You'll see here, this is one of the add-ons that I had suggested. This is the 24 well palette with the ceramic lid that you can use as a mixing space. This is what I will be using today. If you just have this one that came with the basic set or the basic collection, that's not a problem. In addition, the other add-on is the water well. You might see my dirty water. It's just slightly dirty, but it'll be fine. I am loving this, and I can share an update because last time I had talked about having the paint pucks in these. So I have the little mini paint pucks, and I did link them below. They weren't part of the actual what I planned for the curated collection, but I do find them very valuable. My mini paint puck that's in the corner of my dirty side, that was unstuck the other day, so I couldn't get my brush on it. And I have to say that when I didn't have that paint puck in here, my clean water got dirty really a lot faster than, like, when I'm done painting today, this is still going to look almost clean, or at least it has so far when I use that. So we'll have to take another look at that if I remember at the end. All right. Now, I'm excited to get started with this one today. Let's talk about the reference. Now, I did make that available so that if you wanted to do this, you could get it ahead of time. All right. We're going to go full screen. Hi, Rob. And hello, Dylan. I saw Dylan pop in. All right. There are the colors that I'm going to be using today. Now, one of the things that I've done, and let me see if I can pop that on. There's the reference photo. Now, I took a piece of tracing paper. Excuse me. And basically, you take your piece of tracing paper, all you need to do is get the information that you feel you're going to need when you paint this. So I marked this out, right? The top of my tree line, the bottom of the reflection in the water of the tree line. Just a general guide where some of these plants are going to be that grow up in, in front of that water. This was just showing me like where the water kind of changes colors, some of my cloud reflections so that I get them going the right direction. Because, excuse me, in my first attempt, and if you are a channel member or a patron and you're on the Discord, I've been sharing a lot of stuff over there leading up to this. Like I shared this when I finished that I did that yesterday. And I just want to do a quick paint through just to see, would I do something different or how would I do it differently? And I'm glad I did, because I learned a lot when I did this. So just knowing like where I need these, and let me just say, like on the hot air balloon, you can choose to put that in or choose to omit it. That is entirely up to you. As I stick my hand there, stick my hand and mess up the colors so you can't see them right. So this was my first one. My train of thought just like totally got derailed. Set that back up behind me. And I took some graphite paper and taped this and then put it underneath and put in some of those lines. Now I've lifted some of that with my kneaded eraser. However, it is actually a lot darker in my studio right now than it was when I put these lines in. I wish I had some lines that I can no longer see. So just real quick, the other thing that I noticed when I did this one, it's a lot brighter through here in the reference photo. And I wanted to preserve, and then down here, I ended up having to use some Dr. Paige Martin's Bleed Proof White here because I wasn't able to maintain preserving that white of the paper. So I'm decided I'm going to do it a little differently this time. And I also didn't like a little bit of like the angles I thought were off on my clouds. I just did this real quick without any transferring of marks from my reference photo. So what I'm going to do is I've taken for my reflection of my sun down here, I took a piece of masking, just put it on a cutting mat, put a circle on there. I used this guy. Okay. And I'm going to turn off the colors now. And so I just put the masking down, put the circle, cut that out with just like a craft knife. And put that on here. That's one way that you can do it. Sometimes I actually I've shown you guys before, I have like little round stickers I got from like the dollar store, or I just use my little thank you stickers. And sometimes I'll use that because they lift right up afterwards. But another way that you can do that, I'm grabbing my PVO drawing gum. This is linked below. And I'm just going to grab one of my silicone tools. And I'm actually going to put this on where I want the sun that's up here in the sky. I'm going to put in my circle. Now, I'm doing this a little smaller than the actual size because we're going to work wet and wet. And I want a really soft edge. If you look at that reference photo, you don't see a hard to find line. So we are going to make this a little smaller than we want it to be when it's finished. And by wetting around it and just kind of avoiding the area around, it's just going to give a nice soft effect, and you'll see. Who is painting with me today? Anybody out there painting with me today? I know Rob, we were talking on I want that circle cutter. That is just a circle maker. Like this is just, I don't have this one linked below. I meant to and I forgot. But this is just to draw the circles. As far as cutting it out, I just used a utility knife. Yeah, the template tool. Yes. Okay. I'm like, yeah, that's all right. And I have listed that before. If you just click one of the links to Amazon and type in Helix Circle Maker, that'll get you there. All right. So this, of course, has to dry now before we can paint this area. So while that is happening, I'm going to just put in a few of these lines. Now you don't have to go through tracing from the reference photo and then, you know, transferring it with the graphite paper to your page. Your sky, you know, your tree line, if you would, you can just put in kind of random, you know, making it look similar. Doesn't have to be exact. Okay, just mark that over. And for this part, we don't really have to worry about if our line, okay, my lead is broken. There we go. We don't have to worry about if this line is dark, because this is going to be very dark when we paint it. It is going to be like almost black. Okay. Yeah, I can probably drop a link right in the chat that would be an affiliate one. I see Joseph tried to get that for you guys while I'm waiting for that to dry. So only take me a moment. Well, it will if my keyboard will cooperate. And now it doesn't want to pop up. Isn't that weird? I had a hard time finding it the last time I looked on Amazon. It like just didn't want to pop in. There we go. Found it. There you go. That is the in the live chat. That is to the Helix circle maker. Dylan says it reminds me of a spirograph. Oh my gosh, I actually have stuff like spirograph. I used to love doing spirograph. You guys used that when you were a kid? I loved it with like the gears, and you could go around in the circles and make all kinds of designs, and then I would color them all in, and yeah. I absolutely loved it. All right, and there's a few spots that I want to make sure I remember. Right here is where it's going to come up and almost reach this point. I also have some branches that are coming up from this area. We'll get those are going to be super easy to do. So yeah, I think that I'm not going to worry about the sky. I can pretty much see what I need to see for that. But that kind of helps you guys see where we're at. Oh, and our hot air balloon. I will be putting it in. Again, you don't have to. You can if you want to, or you can just paint it as a sunset. This was taken, gosh, it was taken a decade ago now. I took this photo at Dover Cove, which is an area of the Piscataquis River, during the Hot Air Balloon Festival that we had. There, hopefully that will try quickly. I was going to do it ahead of time. I should have, and then I completely forgot. And I was just sitting here too, just waiting and waiting. I'm like waiting. I was like, oh, is it time to stream yet? Is it time to stream yet? And then all of a sudden I was like, oh shoot, it's past time to stream. When we do this, we're going to paint. This is going to go really quickly. I think you're going to be surprised at how quickly this goes. Now, the only thing with doing this is now that I have masking fluid on, I'm not going to want to be using my heat tool until I can get that masking off. Anytime you use your heat tool, you definitely run the risk that you could bond your masking to your paper. I would say if you had a scrap piece of the paper that you're working on, try putting some down and using like low heat to kind of dry it quickly, and then see, like, does it come off easily after that. Let me see. All right. Now, I showed you the colors that we will be using. Let's just talk about those for a second. If you don't have the Meeden watercolors, but you want to paint along, the Meeden colors have Prussian blue, which is PB15 and PV23. That's showing up in the way there, but right there. So I also chose to use the violet PV23 because this pigment is in this one. It's going to be more cohesive. And then if you look down near the balloon, we get more into like an ochre, burnt sienna type of look. Oh, thanks, Dylan. Dylan sends us a super chat. Says, I love that little balloon. Thank you. All right. So next up, we have down near the balloon, we've got that kind of yellow ochre burnt sienna. And then I'm going to be using black, which for them is the PBK11. The burnt sienna is a PR101, and their yellow ochre is PY42. So I give you all of that information because violet, it might not be called violet in your watercolors if you don't have the Meeden ones. That is also known as carbazole violet if you're using Daniel Smith, or you might also know that as dioxazine purple. Prussian blue could be made up with different pigments, so yours may not be PB15 and PV23, but if you have PV23, you could add a little bit of that to your phthalo blue, which is PB15. So, all that to say, you can use what you have. All right, so there's our burnt sienna and our yellow ochre. And we have our black, which we're going to do a little bit of mixing because our distant stuff, we're going to add in a little bit of maybe like the burnt sienna with our black. And our Prussian blue, also if we wanted to make like our Payne's gray or a gray that we're going to see in that sky, usually I mix burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. But because I'm trying to keep this cohesive, you might see me mix up some burnt sienna with like some Prussian blue. And then adding a little extra violet just to kind of help move these colors down. Because if we look at the bottom on the reference photo, and I'm going to make that a little bit larger for you. Okay, if we look down at the bottom in the water, you can actually see some purplish reflection going on there in the darker blue areas. So we're going to bring that in with our violet. And if we follow that up to the sky and look around the area of where the sun is its brightest, we can also see some purples coming through in there. So that's where we're going to use that violet color. And then the gray, as we transition from that blue violet into our yellow ochre raw sienna kind of look, we're going to play with that Payne's gray and help kind of make that transition. And of course, our blue and our burnt sienna is going to give us a gray anyway. So it's going to help us make a nice transition into that ochre area of the sky without it getting kind of muddy or turning green or looking weird. So shrink that back up there for you, and I think that is probably going to be good enough for us to get started. All right, so we're going to do this in a few steps. The brushes we're going to use today, now in the collection, it came with all of these brushes. But today we're going to use, and these two seem to be my favorite. These are the ones I reach for most often. So our larger of the wash brushes or flats, our largest round, and then one of the small rounds. Doesn't matter which one. I mean, they give you, if you saw the video, more than I think you need. But you have a plethora of them. I kind of went with the middle of the road one out of the small ones. So I'm just going to set those over there in my little rest till we need them. We're going to start with our wash brush. And we're going to be wetting the background. We're going to wet our sky, and we're going to wet our water. Before we do that, let's mix up a couple colors. So we're going to start, and I didn't prime any of these. Not that you really need to. These reactivate so easily. But I'm just going to kind of hit the colors that I know I'm going to use. So my black, my Prussian blue, my violet, and then I have my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre. So it's kind of worked out that these were just kind of stacked on top of each other. First, we're going to need to do our blue. In our sky, we're going to start with a really, really light wash, because if we look, we have lighter areas coming through in the sky, but they're not white. They're just lighter. So we need a really light blue to start with. So we're going to some of that, and we're going to just get a nice watered down version. This is going to be very wet. So by this being like, I would say that's kind of like tea consistency. It's going to dilute more when we put it into a wet wash. All right. Next up, we're going to grab some more of this blue. Right. See, that's definitely a lot darker. And we're going to take that, and I'm just going to grab a tiny, just touched into my black. I'm going to put it beside here, because if I go right in, I can end up mixing a lot more paint than I need. We just want to get this a little darker, bring a little bit of that in. Makes me think of Lunar Blue by Daniel Smith. Okay. Now, one thing I will say about these is colors that normally are quite granulating, they don't granulate as much in this set. There's some, but not a lot. We're also going to end up needing a little bit of the purple, so I'm just putting that here. so I can grab it as I need it. And we're going to need our burnt sienna. And our yellow ochre. Set those side by side. And we will kind of mix those up. We're going to do like a little mix of these two. We may add some more water and dilute it as we get in here, but because we're going to look at our reference photo, we do need a light version of the color that kind of mixes with those. So we will be diluting that a bit more before we actually put it into our painting. Okay, when we paint this, I want you to make pretend, if you're painting long, I want you to make pretend that this land right here doesn't exist yet. We are going to paint right through this area. And the reason being is because when we come back and we do our plants that are, you know, our little bushes and stuff that are growing up here, we're going to want to see through that. So we're definitely going to want to make sure that we can see that water through the plants, because we don't want to have to go back later and try to fix that. So just make pretend it's not there, paint right through it. And Simone Mack says, hello, Simone Mack. And I was like, wait a minute. Oh, Rob says, I really enjoyed those brushes. I saw like more than one thing at once, I guess. Simone Mack said, hello. And Rob said, I really enjoyed those brushes. Yeah, I have been really pleased so far with these brushes. All right, so dipping into my clean water, we are just going to wet this. And now I decided that I was just going to tape mine off and put a border on it. You don't have to. You can if you want. If we look at the first run that I did, there's no border. I just decided that this time I wanted to put a border around it. And it would definitely easily let me see, you know, which one I painted first and which one came second, because the one that came second has the border. All right. Wetting all of our sky, getting this plenty wet. I'm not worried if I go down below my line just a little bit there. It's not going to matter, because when we paint our trees, that is very, it's black, right? Very dark. So it's going to cover anything I put in this sky. I also need to put water down here, bottom. And again, I'm just wetting right to the bottom. Okay. Now my paper is good and wet. I don't know where I just pulled that black from. If something like that happens, just more water. You can rinse it right out. Grab myself a paper towel. Okay. Probably picked up graphite from somewhere. All right. So this is really wet. Let me see if you can see it better. Not really. I'm going to move this. Apologies. I bumped my camera. Well, you can see a little bit there. See, I actually have some water pooling here. And again, I'm using the Holbein soft tape I've told you guys about. That's what I have my taped off with. This can handle doing some seriously wet and wet washes. Really soaking that paper. So you see, it's very wet. And I don't even really need to wait for that sheen to kind of dissipate. Oh, that's excellent. So W.A. Castle says, hello, I've been curious about this set. It has been in my cart since Christmas, but was on the fence since I hadn't heard anyone talking about it. Let's see. Tara, did I miss the first part of what you said? From your lines. Oh, from my lines. Yes, that's where I was getting the dark on the watercolor paper. I got up. Um, I am absolutely loving this set so far. Castle. It's been fantastic. I've enjoyed painting with it. I already loved the paper. I'm very pleasantly surprised and pleased with the brushes. All right, so I'm setting that wash brush aside. Now, let's get ready. We're going to dive in here. This is already starting to dry on my palette, and some of these other colors are already going to start drying on my palette too, but that is fine. And we're just going to, this guy kind of works in a diagonal like this way. And we're going to start by just dropping in. This is our lightest value. So when we see through those clouds, this is what we're going to be seeing. And we're going to do this wet and wet. So we're just going to keep building up while it is wet. Now, this area here, I want to keep very bright. So as I work through, right, I'm going to get, don't worry if you like see it's not even, it's not like a perfect even wash. I'm not worried about that today. I don't need to worry about that happening. Right now, as I get near, you see I've like worked out a lot of the paint that's on my brush. I'm going to very lightly come around this area, but I'm still kind of avoiding this circle that's around the sun. I'm not going to go below this with my blue because getting down here, we get into that ochre color. So in my water, that is my reflection, I'm also going to have blue through here. And there's going to be blue here. Again, I'm going to be cautious to avoid where I don't want to paint right up to the edge of my sun, because then I'm going to leave a hard line there, and I don't want that. And I'll show you what you can do if you get a little too close with your color. You don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is rinse your brush, which I just went into my clean water, not what I wanted to do, and dab some of that off, and you're just going to come around and kind of lift some of that color. And when I lift, I am wiping on paper towel here. Let's go back to the overhead. Okay, so I can just kind of go around it and then wipe off on that brush. I am going to, with a clean water, this is already starting to dry. Everything that I've told you guys dries so quickly in my studio. I just want to make sure that this stays wet because I want to be able to maintain this wet in wet. All right, now we're going to get a little bit darker. We just got to keep going. We don't want to stop. So just making sure that this wash stays wet. Now I'm going to come and grab some darker blue. And thank you, Rob is gifting memberships. As soon as I get to a point where I can pause, I will come through and welcome you all personally. Okay, now we need some darker blue. So this is still going to be a little diluted. This is still very much wet because I just went over and wet it again. Now I'm going to look at areas where that paint or that sky is darker, right? So I have some lighter area here. It's almost like it's through like this. And it's darker over here. And you don't need to be exact. And it kind of like comes around and wisps back towards the sun a little bit, and that's going to pull us into our gray. So I'm just going to kind of pull those back in that way. I need this to get even darker in some areas. Bringing a little bit more of that blue down, a little bit more of the black in. Here we go. And again, it does not have to be exact to the reference. And you see here, I'm getting some feathering. If you should bring this a little closer, you can see what I mean. See how those lines are coming down? I don't want that. And I have a piece of fuzz there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my damp brush and I'm going to kind of go over that. Now that was damp. That was not wet. I didn't want to push. If it was really wet, I could push a back bloom up into that sky, which is not what I'm really looking to do. All right. I also have some darker down here. And see how much that's already, it's dry. I'm just going to go over this with clean water. Lift right there. Don't worry about going into your where your plants are going to be growing. You definitely don't have to worry about that. Okay. We need to get a little bit of purple into what is going to be like our gray. I got my black. That's a lot of black. Grabbing more of my blue. You see I went below where that black was because I knew there was too much there. Pull that in. Grab some more of my purple. I'm actually not liking that. Grab. I grabbed black. I wanted to grab the blue because I wanted to see when I mix that blue. And then see, I pulled that purple in. And that is kind of the gray I'm looking for. And we're going to put some of that in our sky through here. It's a little dark up there. And this is why I painted it once already. If I don't like something, I just, right? It's water. It's watercolor paper. I just wash it out. Wash it out. I'm just blotting, lift that right back off. And if I'm going to put the blue back in, not a problem. Gotta get, I need this area, it's not wet enough. And my paper has a little bit of buckling going on the block. I have not had this be a problem yet. It always tends to lay itself down nice and flat after. And I think I'm going to put in this. That'll help me get my grays where I want them. So mixing adding some water, my ochre and my sienna. And I really want this to be kind of more dilute at first. So this color comes right through this area where these trees are. Remember, the watercolor is going to dry lighter. So don't worry if it looks a little darker than you think it should, because it will dry lighter. And then corresponding, we need to pop some of that down here as well. And this color pulls through, and I'm seeing that warmth actually all the way back here. Now I do have some blue here, so I'm going to try not to put too, cross over too much, but I'm going to come right up to them. And if I just do a couple little brush strokes, that's going to be fine. They're going to kind of just set there and I don't have to worry about it. And this is going to need to get a little darker. Again, this will definitely dry lighter. Now, see, I've eaten up some of that white space that I really wanted to stay. Thanks, James. I'm glad you stopped by. So again, just kind of lift out around that area, and there we go. That'll be fine. Okay. I need to warm this up a little bit further up. I'm going to take my yellow ochre, very watered down yellow ochre. I'm starting here just in case it's too much, too dark. Right? Just going to kind of pull a little bit of this warmth up here. Tapping that off gets most of the paint out, and then I can just put a little bit of warmth up above. Okay, now I need that gray. Now that that's in there, I can see, like, I need to put some of that gray. I'm going to, that was definitely too purple. Take some of that black. I'm gonna really desaturate that. That was not what I wanted. I grabbed the yellow ochre side and I wanted the sienna side. There we go. And we're just going to give that a try. Right here, one of my darker marks. It's going to kind of come through here. I think that'll be fine. Again, I'm not going to worry if I pull back to where the trees are, because the trees are going to be darker. That is not wet, so it just kind of sat there. I'm still going to leave space around my sun. Again, we don't have to be exact. We don't have to be exact to our reference photo, right? Just similar. Or not at all, just whatever you paint in the sky, put in the reflection as well. You see, I just grabbed some more water on my brush, through. And these will dry lighter than they look. We've got one that comes through kind of right across the top, almost right across the top of the hot air balloon. It just comes right across. This gets more blue as it goes up. I'm going to put some of this in here as well. So we have our one that comes right through like where our hot air balloon is. Just kind of mimicking some of those. Again, this is still very much wet and wet. This one was a little drier, but I can soften that just with a damp brush. Wisp over that. I'm gonna go for some more desaturated blue. I want to make sure this is not a soaked brush. Hi, Snow. Thanks for stopping in and joining us. Just want to make sure that that top part we haven't touched in a while. And again, I'm not using a soaked brush. I'm just using a damp brush. One of the things that I felt last time when I did my sky was that maybe it wasn't quite dark enough to help those, that sun, that light really come through. Pulling in a little bit more black, pulling up a little bit more of my blue. I just keep glancing at my reference photos because I'm just trying to keep things in the general area. Again, I'm not worried if my sky is not exact. And over here, I get a little bit more purple. I want to pull through some of that purple. So I'm grabbing the purple over here because it doesn't have the sienna in it. And just trying to get a little bit more, maybe some purple into some of the pieces that come this way. Bringing in black, the blue, and a lot of purple. There we go. And I might have still gotten it a little too dark up here, but I'm just going to kind of blend that out. And again, it's not exact, but I am not worried about that. want to lift out some areas, I can come in with some water and lift and get some of that light back. I have a feeling, because I actually touched up to where my masking was, that I'm going to end up with a harder line than I wanted, but it's fine. Okay, we need some darker values down here. And one of the things, like, there's almost like a greenish look to the water. And I am just going to, first off, clear a spot. And I'm going to take my Prussian blue and a touch of this yellow ochre. So still using color, the same colors, to keep this cohesive. I need that to be wet again. I think I just dropped a blob of water on my, there we go. That would have definitely caused something unsightly in this guy. Just wetting this lower part again because it is dry. And I'm going to lay in a little bit of that green. We see a little bit just kind of up in here. And maybe a little through here. Not getting too far that way. And then this right here gets much darker. I'm going to come into this blue. Still has a little bit of that black in it. And I am going to drop that in right at the edge. And just kind of let all those mix and mingle on the paper. And I think these need to be darker. I'm coming in here where I had more of that purple, because you see purple. I need to get a little bit of that in my water. Let me drop that in while this is still wet. Take a little bit of that purple. And we see it happen. It's little bit in this area. It comes right around here. And again, this is going to dry lighter. Not mixing too much towards where I put that green. Just kind of setting in. And you see it's not really the yellow ochre that was underneath that kind of dried. It's not really making a nasty brown either. So they sit really nicely on top of each other. I really am enjoying the way I can layer these colors. All right. And darkening up our cloud reflection here. And pulled that to the left, because with watercolor, where I lift my brush, I'll tend to deposit more color. So I don't want to do it this way, because I want that to be kind of really pointed. Right? So same up here, that'd be this one. Pull that through. And then these here being these. And our one that comes through. And again, it's that whole part of the paper's dry. Can't get over how fast everything is drying here today. Yes, Tara says, studio hangout is tomorrow. It is tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. If you don't know what we're talking about, studio members, once a month here on YouTube, we get together and hang out over Zoom. So you can see what I'm doing in the studio. I can see what you're doing if you choose to share what you're working on. Or you can drop in with voice. I'm just darkening up some areas. So I just think we can use some darker values through here. You choose the level at which you want to participate. There's like texting chat if that's what you're comfortable with, or again, you can turn on your own camera and share what you're working on. I love to see your work. It's a great time to hang out, ask questions, get help if you need help with something. Trying not to get too close to that sun. I do need that to be a little softer. So again, I just wet my brush, dampen that off, and come back through. I dried my brush too much. There we go. Just wanted to soften that edge. My palette is so dry. We just kind of build up in layers. And these are a little harder lines than I want. So just damp brush, going around the edges, softening them out. And when I say damp brush, like I don't want drips of water going on my paper. I don't want to flood my paper with water, because that is definitely going to just put too much in there, and it'll cause blooms and things that you just don't want. And once again, darkening these up. I notice as they dry, I start to see like how much it's lightening up and how much am I going to want to darken that area. Kind of like what I got. I need one more up here. There's another. Kind of that cloud right there. We're reflecting here. Okay. Magic really happens when we put in that dark. So now I need to let this set for a few. I actually don't think this is quite dark enough on this side. I put my dark in over here, but see this? When you look through those trees, it's actually a lot darker. So let me just real quick before I let that dry, grabbing some of that black, grabbing some more of my blue. Nice, kind of very desaturated. Again, I'm just going to kind of take my clean water and wet some of this area. Okay, cleanish water. I was still very blue on my brush. And we're going to drop in that darker. I'm not worried if I go below where my trees are. In fact, I prefer that that happen. And I'm going to soften this edge. So again, clean water, tap my brush off. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to let that kind of set. I'm going to wipe off any excess paint that I have on my tape. You can do that if you've taped yours off. All right, this has to dry for a few. And remember, I can't hit this with the heat tool because of my sun that's up there. So while this is drying, let's just take a moment. Oh, thanks for dropping by, Dylan. Oh, Snow says, this is a lovely picture. Thank you. I have a similar night scene photo that I want to paint. And guys, I'm going to have to ask you to excuse me for one moment. I have to pause for just a moment. I'll be right back with you. Yes, thank you. Sorry. No, I am not frozen. I am not frozen. I am back. Sorry. All right. Sorry about that. I had to take care of something really quick. Okay. Now, while this is finishing drying, and I'll be able to move on very soon. It doesn't have to be completely dry, just mostly dry. Let me just come back up and see if I can find where that was. So Rob gifted 20 memberships. Again, thank you so much. If you've received one, you are now a super fan. And as a super fan, you'll have access to the Discord server. So let me just come back here so I can see you guys while this is setting. You'll have access to our Discord server. If you are on Discord already, you just have to make sure that your Discord is connected to YouTube. And if you're not sure how to do that, I have a community post. Just go to the channel community tab and you will see it there. Walks you right through how to do it. You connect it over on the Discord side of things, but it tells you exactly step by step what to do. So welcome to Rebecca and Kathy, Gail, Cami, Topeka Adkins, Liza, Jessica, Annette, Rhonda, Marg Chat. Marg, is that how you say some? I apologize if I butcher anybody's name. It is not intentional. Donna, Purple Panda. Is it DeWillish? That's what it looks like. Kylie's coloring in Down Under. Suyan. Thinker, Dreamer, Sketcher, Spy. Love that name. Lullybet127. I am gonna like totally butcher how that's supposed to be, Eva, but let me just do this way. Eva, welcome to the channel. So Darren Lee, Ashley Song. Okay, thank you so much, Rob. And just make sure that I didn't miss anything else. Okay. Yeah, this is allowing my sky to dry. Tara said this will allow for her sky to dry. Yes. So Snow said the brushes look nice. I may order it. I'm really enjoying the brushes, Snow. I really am. Rob says he's going to need a tardy slip for our live Zoom tomorrow. All right. So this, it's still cool to the touch, but we can work on putting in, I'm not going to do the balloons until it's a lot more dry than it is now, because our balloons, we don't want them to kind of feather out into the sky. So we want that to be dry. And as soon as this is a little more dry and I can take the masking fluid off, words are hard today, then I'll be able to dry the rest and it won't be a problem. All right. So yeah, Rob says that those brushes were a super pleasant surprise. I agree. So far, loving the brushes. All right, let's talk about how we're going to do our background. It's black, right? If we look at our, I don't have it on this one. If we look at our reference photo there, everything, it just looks black. But this here, this part, we're going to do, and you see, let me just show you guys. Aside from me going in here with a dirty brush by accident once, you see how dirty this side is and how clean this side still is? And it would be very clean if I hadn't gone in here with my dirty brush at one point. I'm loving that rinse well. All right. I'm just going to wet this area with the largest round brush, and it doesn't necessarily have to be wet and wet. I think it's just going to help me get this color in here faster, move it around. And so I'm just dampening this area of my paper. And again, I'm not like soaking it. I'm not like pulling the water like I did. And I may need to darken that up, but we'll do any touch-ups after. Because once we get this really dark value in here, we're going to see if anything needs darkening in the sky or the reflections. We're definitely going to know once we put this part in. Okay, so again, I'm going to take my black and I'm going to need a bit of it. Rob, I just have to share since Rob wants to put it out there. Yeah, we do have merch. I need to come up with some more. Come up with some fun stuff. There is logo merch. There is merch with some of my artwork on it. All right. To this black, I am going to add in. All right, I feel like I knocked my paint puck out of my corner when I was. There we go. Without it, this clean water will get dirty faster. I might put a larger paint puck in my dirty side. I'm going to bring in a little bit of the burnt sienna to that black. Still warming it up. And what's back here is going to be warmer. When we come up here, we're going to add some blue. And you might think, shouldn't you have cooler colors in the distance and warmer colors in to the foreground? And I would say yes, but when I look closely, when that reference photo is large, you'll actually see that the black that is to the background is actually kind of a little warmer than what looks black silhouetted in the foreground. All right. So let's see, I can just go like picture, here's my horizon line, right? What's up here is reflecting here. And as we go along, I'm gonna kind of turn this sideways a little bit. I just tap my brush, like just kind of push up, because I don't want a straight line. I want it to look like there's a bunch of trees back there. Looking up that area, the river actually goes off that way to a dam. It falls over the dam and it goes very far up that way and it kind of curves around the corner over there. So we are going to, like, those are distant trees, and this is actually trees that are closer, and it's like, I think that's why it comes down a little bit further here in the reflection. So see, I just kind of push up, and it's going to give me kind of a, I'm sorry guys, I didn't realize I was like shaking my camera when I was doing that. And this is actually like, you see I'm tapping kind of beyond. This is where there are like the big, not necessarily evergreen trees, like deciduous trees, trees that drop their leaves. And so we kind of have a little bit of space there we can kind of see through. So just by tapping, I can convey that and then leave that way. But in the reflection, it's solid. So you don't have to worry about, you know, mimicking that when you get into your reflection. All right. So there's everything above. Now let's make it below. And one of the ways that I find it's easy to do that, let's just flip my paper over. Flip my paper over. And this is already getting quite dry. It's much easier to move this color around. My paper's damp. It's even drying on my palette. And it definitely will stain your brush, but having white bristles, that was pretty much inevitable. Okay, so again, just like I did before, just kind of following along my line and just pressing a little bit so that it's not perfectly smooth. And you're going to find that this is going to dry and you're going to go, oh, it's kind of blotchy and patchy, and that's fine. We're going to come back and we're going to do a second layer. And that will take care of all of that. Again, right here where those trees, I'm not worried about, you know, doing the marks where we can see through. As always, I take up a ton of room when I'm mixing color on my palette. So again, you see like I have areas here that look lighter. I'm just going to drop some more pigment in there, but if I can't leave the pigment there and like when I move, it's pulling it away, I'm just going to stop and let it be. It means it needs to dry and I need to come back with another layer after. Okay. There we go. I'm going to turn this back around. So there is our reflection and our tree line. Oh, I didn't want to touch that. I need to let it dry. Stop touching, let it dry. Okay. I'll rinse my brush. Now this part down here, we need more black, but I'm going to put some blue in that one. I'm going to come in here and grab my blue. Put that down. And bring that black right over. Grab some more. I've painted quite a bit with this palette, and for as small as these little wells are, I thought for sure I would go through this paint so quickly. I'm really surprised that I'm not. Like, I can't even see the ceramic yet in the bottom of that. And I've done a bit of painting with it. So, yeah, I'm really pleasantly surprised. Oh, thanks for coming and hanging out, Teresa. So let's just grab some of this. Whoa, that was almost right in my sky. And I'm going to right along the bottom here. So again, maybe a little bit more blue in it. There we go. And you notice that when I mixed the colors into my black, I was still using colors I've already used in my painting. All right. Now, as we get up beyond, I haven't got all the way to my line yet, just almost to it. And that is because now I'm going to rinse this brush out. Oh yeah, my paint bucket just like, I mean, no, it's floating around in there somewhere. I got a little too aggressive. I knocked it loose. Okay. I'm going to grab my smaller brush. Get that wet. And I'm going to just start dabbing in what are going to be the bushes and the little shrubbery. And let me make this a little bit larger so this is easier for you to see some of those details. I don't know if that translates through very well through the bottom, but you can see if you grabbed the reference photo, you're going to have just little areas. Just like grasses that stick up over here. So I'm just pulling that color up. I don't know why my camera is shaking. It's not connected to my table. I'm just going to and I'm moving my brush in different directions. Okay. And if you notice, like over here, I put these marks in, and that was to remind me that that's the area where I have some that come out. Has some little leaves and stuff that branch off of it. So the smaller brush definitely makes doing these parts easier. I did it all with the larger brush last time, but if the smaller brush makes it easier for you, and by all means, just grab that smaller brush. Now I need to take my sticker off because this is where I have, and I really wanted that to be not so hard to line, but we can fix it. I'm not worried about that. Some of this goes right out here over, and you're going to see I'm going to put my lines in where I want these to be. And then I'm going to come back and I'm just tapping. Just tapping in foliage. Don't worry about being exact. The brain will be like, oh, there's a bush there. There's some shrubbery. And you notice, like, I don't even think I'm coming far enough. This actually reaches almost right to where the other side of the sun's reflection is at. There we go. And sometimes it's easier when I just grab, especially down here where it's thicker, right? Grab that bigger brush. And again, I'm just kind of dabbing. I do want to leave some white space so we can see through it in some areas. And you notice, like, I put the marks here because I knew it was going to be hard for me to remember. Like, it actually goes almost all the way up into that reflection, right? They're pretty much touching. So I'm just making up what that shrub's skeleton is, if you would. And by doing that, then you can just come back through and pop branches and, you know, little leaves in here. On this side where this point is, it definitely comes right up through and touches. Over here certainly does as well. And again, these don't have to be perfect or exact. Close is good enough. Now let's lay in some foliage. I'm going back to my bigger brush just because I know I can work a lot faster this way. Because I'm going to start like here. This is really dense. Really dense. Mostly covered. So I'm just going to like leave a few areas that have white space. Very dense. As I get to the edge, I'm working with just the tip, and this brush has held its tip really well. I'm very, very pleased with this so far. Sometimes shaky hands are not a bad thing. And I'm like often looking up at the reference just to see like how much light am I seeing through in an area so that I can kind of get similar. I'm not going for photorealism. I already have the photo. I took the photo. Right? I just want to paint something similar. You see, I'm just dancing around, dabbing in. As I get to the end, I'll work, my brush goes more upright, and I am working with that just at that tip, barely touching, and I get those smaller looking leaves. Okay. If you paint this, I would love to see it. Please, if you are a channel member or patron and you're on Discord, you can, we have a channel just for you to share your artwork over there. If you're not and you paint this, I would love to see it. If you share it on social media, tag me. All right, so here, kind of goes around, pop up. About there. See, just dabbing. And by putting in that blue with this black, it might not be showing up as much on on the monitor right now or in the video, but you can definitely see the difference between the two hues from here to here, I can see what I'm painting over top of that. Let me see if I can get you guys a closer look. See, that is really right here. This is really showing up even on top of that reflection. I barely touched my brush to my water just because my paint was drying on my palette. Over here we see a little bit more of the water through. There's still this lower growth, right? And then we have some of the leaves, but we're seeing more water in this area coming through. And it definitely goes all the way up over that reflection. See that? And just like that, we have some of our foreground. Now, if we look at this color, if I look at my water, those, the darkest values of my water are much darker than what I'm seeing here right now. So we will darken those up in just a moment. All right. And actually before, some of this that is drying, I can see that perhaps I need a little bit more. Some darker values down here. If you need to darken anything up, just come back through and tap it again. If there are different values in the foreground, that's also going to be fine. Okay. Back here, I definitely need this to be darker, right? I mean, you could leave it with the varying colors. You see how it's dried, and I have patches that are lighter. But if I look at my reference photo, that is like almost black. I'm not seeing different values there. So I am coming back in my black again. And this was the black that I added. If my paint puck wouldn't have moved, my water would still be even cleaner than it is. A little bit of this burnt sienna too. I'm just going to grab what's on my palette and work it in there. All right. And I can come back through any areas that are a lighter value than I want. I'm just going to pop that over it and darken it up. I'll flip this upside down again so that I can come up into these areas, because I find it easier if I'm like tapping or pulling down rather than trying to go this way. And I'm going to be really careful not to fill in any of those white spaces that I left. go. I'm going to turn this upside down. A little bit more. Just making that burnt sienna really dirty. Which is okay. It'll clean right up. All right. Now here, like I had that the foreground coming up into this space. So I'm just kind of doing a little bit of negative painting in those areas. I can come back through again with that color if I want to. This is just much darker now. Here we go. Turn that back around. Look at that. And I still have that black with the blue, but if I needed a little bit more. Okay. Hi, Starving Artist Collective. All right, it is time to remove my masking. And yes, because I let my color get up into where that was, I have kind of that harder line. So let's talk about what if we get a hard line and we want to remove it. One of two things. We can take, right, this is cleanish water. And be careful because it will pull the black. It's going to pull the black from my foliage here. So I don't want to touch that. I'm just kind of going over that edge, softening and rubbing that with a damp tissue. Not really scrubbing hard on the paper, just kind of softening the edge. I'm being very gentle with my brush. I am not scrubbing. And so again, up here, all right, we're going to do the same thing. I'm just going to kind of wet that edge. And we're just going to soften that out. You can also take the tissue, get the tissue damp, and just kind of rub that area. Now I'm getting my tissue is pilling, not my paper right now. I'm not scrubbing hard. Yeah, I got a little few pieces of tissue behind. Not paper though. It was not the paper coming up. This paper so far has really stood up to pretty much anything I want to throw at it. Okay, just gonna call it good enough. Yes, we are climbing. We are climbing. We are getting there slowly but surely, starving. Starving was talking about subscribers. Huge thank you to everyone that's been subscribing, because yes, those numbers are definitely growing. And I appreciate all of you who have taken a moment to hit that subscribe button. And if you are enjoying the curated collection and, would like to see maybe some more curated collections, hit that thumbs up, hit that like button. Okay, let's put in our hot air balloon. Now, if you didn't want the hot air balloon and you just wanted the reflection of the sunset on the cove in the river, stop, right? Stop right here, because you don't need the hot air balloon. But if we want to put our hot air balloon in, and this is still wet, so I'm just gonna grab my bridge to rest my hand on while I paint that in. And you could do this certainly. I have my large brush here, but you grab your smaller brush. You will find with time, the more that you paint with watercolor, the larger the brush that you will be comfortable using. And you'll find that, especially when you have a good brush that holds its point, you won't grab for those smaller. You won't grab for a smaller brush as much. Like that is just, the paint's not flowing the way I want it to. With this larger brush, I can maintain my point, so I can get the fine detail that I want. There we go. It's a little wonky. See if we can't straighten that out. But yeah, I find that the longer that I paint with watercolor, the larger the brush I tend to use, and I rarely ever use a brush like this. Which is why when I first shared this collection with you, I stated that there were other sizes. Like if Meeden came out with another set of brushes for watercolor artists, there are sizes I would love to see. Or if they, revamped this set, there are a few brushes that I wouldn't mind seeing go away, like some of these smaller ones. I think there's too many small ones in here. I mean, it's great if you do paint with smaller detail and use those smaller brushes. You have a few of them. I'm not disappointed that I have them. Now, I think I love my reflection, but I think my one that's here in the sky, this is one I probably should just be like, walk away, don't keep messing with it. But I can't help myself. There we go. I think that's a little better. So now I have my balloon, and he needs to dry. But now all of my masking is removed, so I can actually use my heat tool and make sure that is good and dry. And then I can move on. Anything I want to darken up, I can come back and darken that up. So let's just hit that real quick. And can I just say already, as much as this was like wanting to buckle and move when I first was painting the sky, it is laid, it is dried, and it is flat. Like, it is laid really flat. And you'll see when I remove this from the block. Okay. Hopefully that filtered out the drying noise for you. So there are a few areas, like I think we need a little bit darker here. So I am going to take my brush and I'm actually going to just kind of wet a little bit of this area. Now see that I pulled. I got to be careful because this is still, even though I just dried that, it is not set. And I just pulled that dark color from my balloon. So taking my burnt sienna is really, remember I got it really dirty. I'm just going to clean that off because I just went right into it when I had black on my brush. And you guys can't really see it, but because I have the reference photo up still. And getting that yellow ochre. Yellow ochre and burnt sienna in there. Let me shrink this back just a bit so you can at least see the palette. And there you go. And I am going to come into this with my smaller brush this time. It's, oh, cool. Tara said, didn't hear a peep. Starring says, yes, almost never use small brushes anymore. Sharp point size 12 is my favorite. Yeah, I will share with you guys one. I just got myself a new brush. It's a brand I have not used before. Well, I've used the brand before, but I haven't used this model, if you would, of their brushes. I haven't used that yet. I'm going to put a little bit darker right through here. And now what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to be looking at my, just went into my clean water with that. Soften that up a little bit. I still don't want a hard edge. Same with here. So I just have a damp brush and I'm going along the edge where I just put that paint. There we go. I think that'll about do it for that little brush. I still think that the reflections could be darker. So one of the things I'm going to do, I still want it soft. Now, I'm not going to touch where my hot air balloon is because, again, recently put that down. Even though I hit it with the heat tool, it's not 100%. And well, like these, you can see I can come back over with a little bit of water and I'm not like instantly reactivating and moving that paint. It's had some time to sit there and cure a bit, if you would. But I don't want to push my luck over here. So this, I really want to be kind of gray. I'm going to take that blue. I'm going to pull some of this down, which was my burnt sienna. Some of that blue. Right? Let's get like a Payne's gray. And yes, I can grab a little bit of the black because I have it. And it's a little more, if I look at the reflection, like the water one is more blue than what's in the sky. still want to desaturate that though, but definitely a little bit bluer. And let's pull this in. I know that's a lot darker than my sky is. Just a clean brush. See, I've wiped it off. And again, I want to just soften those edges, which also lightens that up just a little bit. So it's a clean brush. Wipe it off. There's still plenty of water in that brush. Pull it back along the edge. It just kind of softens that edge. And yes, it will lift a little bit of the color. That's fine. There we go. I'm going to darken up the ones up above as well. Now I want my, be very careful coming through here, because again, my balloon can be reactivated easily. Now let's do the same for the sky, but for the sky, I want to bring, I've got a little bit of purple sitting here. I'm going to bring more purple up into that. So now that's much cooler, or excuse me, the purple is, it's going to bring it much warmer. It's going to bring it more towards red. It's going to bring it more warmer. Blues always get me. The blue that goes towards green is cool, and a blue that goes more towards red is warm. You see, I just wet that area. Not a soaked brush, just a damp brush. I'm wetting a little bit beyond where I'm going to put my paint so that it will just kind of feather out smoothly. I want that to lighten up. So again, I dampened my brush. Actually lift. It went right into my sunshine, but it's fine. I'm just kind of grabbing down here what was dry. And let's get this a little darker. That was just a tiny bit of the black, a little bit of the, barely, the purple is very strong, so just very little bit of that purple and some of the blue. Because I'm going to bring a little bit more of this darker. Again, clean brush, tap that off, And just gonna kind of go over my edges. Right here, I didn't really follow down through. I think we're gonna bring a little bit of this blue into there. It's kind of grayish in the reference photo. A little bit of that warmth in. Not gonna blend those too much, because again, I don't want to turn it, I don't want it to turn green. Sorry, just ordered a new brush like I need one. Da Vinci Casanero extra long point quill mop. Ooh, that sounds nice. I love getting new brushes. They're just so much fun. Again, don't worry about being exact to the reference. Just have fun. Right? Sometimes, like right now, I'm looking up at my monitor to see like where might this benefit from a little extra. And I'm also looking at my reference photo. There we go. I think I kind of like that a little bit more. All right. And you could play with this all day long until you have it just the way you like it. Now, we have to go for the most satisfying part. Let me set my brushes down in my little holder there. Okay. I'm going to use my heat tool and just kind of warm up the tape. Not that I really need to. This is the soft tape, the Holbein soft tape. It's definitely one of my favorites. I didn't switch the mic. There we go. But it's definitely one of my favorite tapes when I really want to kind of protect that that border. And we'll start switching it over. If you guys have enjoyed this, I hope you'll hit that thumbs up button. I had a lot of fun painting this. Let's look at, I've got it back here. So this was the first attempt. I think my hot air balloon was bigger. Again, I did not use my reference photo. When I did this one, this was all freehand when I put everything in. And I just kind of knew about where I wanted the sun to be in the sky, and I just went for it. With this one, I actually grabbed my reference photo and used some tracing and transfer paper to kind of establish where that land and stuff was going to be. So I don't know. What do you guys like better? You have to drop me a comment. The first attempt where I just like went in and went for it, or this one. Let's get the border off and see those edges. Look at how nice and crisp and clean that is. That is why I love the Holbein soft tape. And I did not put it in the description below, but you know what? I will, after the stream, I will grab you a link and I'll actually pin it in the comments, because look at those edges. It is, like I said before, it's a little more expensive. But if you are doing a piece that you're like, I want a nice clean border, I do not want that water and the color to seep under and mess up that edge, you want the Holbein soft tape. it has, knock on wood, it has not let me down, not one time. Let me just pull this from my block. So if you guys painted along, again, I would love to see you share your work and tag me. Just removing this paper. This block's actually, I actually almost worked my way through this entire block. And there's 20 sheets. The blocks come with 20 sheets. It's a great price. And yeah, I'm really enjoying the paper. I do have the rough. I got the hot press too. I don't really work on hot press so much, but I did get one to try it. And I did get one of the rough. I can't wait to try that. And now sometimes when you have this with the blue, you see there's still the edge there. It just peels right off. It comes right away. So not a big deal. The newer ones, as they phase out the old stock, the newer blocks that they're making now have clear. The glue is clear on the side, so you don't have any blue to your edge. But if I took a moment, like all of that would definitely come off and be nice and clean. So look at that. There is our painting, and I think I still could have gone a little darker even in my sky, made that sun brighten up and in my water, but that's fine. Like this one, I really spent some time and darkened this one up when I did it the first time around. So and see the difference, like with the border and without the border. What do you guys like better, with or without? Get this kind of set there. I think that the angles, I'm liking the angles much better on this one. I like how this has like darker, and I actually like that I made the hot air balloons larger than they actually were in the reference. And the reference is tiny, just like that, because I literally did the tracing and transfer paper. So yeah, if you guys haven't, huge thank you to the moderators, Joseph and Tara. They both have channels here on YouTube. I hope you will check them out. There we go. So that is the first curated collection. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. There's still, if I have time, I'm going to be using this tomorrow during the studio hangout with channel members and patrons that are on the studio tier. So, and there's going to be another opportunity for me to use these supplies and paint with them. I will continue using this paper. Absolutely. I've actually enjoyed the watercolors. I am a lot more surprised at how much I did enjoy these watercolors than I thought I did, because I said right away when I first shared this with you that I thought they were going to be like student grade watercolor. But I'm finding that the pigment load is pretty acceptable in them. I would definitely, if I was putting these up against another paint that I have, I would say that my Cotman paints and these paints are very similar in the way they behave. Meaning when I'm putting that color down, it's kind of staying where I put it. It's not moving. Like, look at how I was able to put in the ochre and the burnt sienna, so those golden tones, and I've got purple right next to them. And I put that, there was some greenish color and blue in here, and you can still see that purple, and you can still see the ochre and the burnt sienna. I think these are going to be very beginner friendly paints. I absolutely recommend them. If you're like, I really want to play with watercolor, maybe you haven't used it before, you've been wanting to, I think that this is a perfect collection to start with, because these paints are gonna go where you put them. And sorry, something on my lip. And you are going to be able to, you're gonna be able to get those soft edges, but they're not going to move too much. Like, it's not going to be like cork, right? We're not going to drop these in. They're going to take off, and we're not going to have that control. You're going to have a lot of control with these paints. I definitely recommend them. I filled this palette. These wells were not very deep, and I thought when I saw the palette at first, honestly, my first internal impression was, oh my gosh, I'm going to be filling these little spots constantly because they don't hold that much paint. I'm surprised. The colors that I've used most at how much paint is still sitting in this palette. I've done quite a bit with this, and it's still pretty full. Like, I'm not really seeing, I'm just starting to see, and that could have been because of it looks like there was like a little air bubble right there. I'm just starting to see a speck of porcelain maybe through that one. But I think there was an air bubble when I put the paint in there, because of how deep that section is. And it could just be too, like, you guys see me, and I'm surprised, and I've been doing this on purpose. You see me I went around like this with my brush because I wanted to know if I beat up on this brush, because most beginners are not going to be like extra careful of that tip. If I beat on that and I put that brush in there, that point down, and I swirled those around to get my color, you see that tip? I mean, it is still holding its point beautifully. I haven't had any issues with this yet. And with a less expensive brush, by now, I would be starting to see that the way that I was using it. So I'm really pleased with the brushes. Every single one of these, on every single one of these, the ferrules were tight. There wasn't a single one with a loose ferrule, which, I mean, that drives me bonkers. If the ferrule gets loose, I won't use the brush anymore. In fact, you guys know that's why I stopped saying that I thought the NIC Pro was a good set, because all the ferrules of every brush that I used on a regular basis, every single one of them started coming loose. Now, you see, this is the color you start with. Yes, they get stained. That's just par for the course. They're, the white bristles, they're definitely going to stain. Good variety. You've got those 3 flats. The fan brush, I don't really use a fan brush in watercolor, but others might. You do have a few of the smaller rounds. These right here are definitely, like, those are my 3 go-to. And mostly these are, like, those are the ones I'm constantly grabbing. Oh, there was one more. I missed one in the thing. See, I haven't even taken the tip off that yet. I think they call that like their liner. And to me, that's not a liner. It's short. It's just a very small round. A liner brush, I think, is like really long bristles. But I always leave these laying flat like this. Like, I had them sitting in a rest while I was working, like that on my desk, just in case if I left paint in them, they wasn't getting on anything. But I would never leave them in this to dry. I would always dry them flat like that. Or usually I dry them like this, and I have them in my my paint puck. So this again was an add-on palette. This is the one that came with that set. And today, doing this painting, this was plenty big enough. You could have put out the 5 colors that we were using and mixed up plenty of the colors that you needed for the larger washes in the sky. And this would have been plenty of mixing room. I don't think I often do a painting where I'm using more than 4 or 5 colors in one single painting. So this could be just fine. I, however, love, and this is why I included it as an add-on, this palette, because it comes with the 24 wells. There are 24 colors, so you can actually dry down all of your tubes. They dried down beautifully. If you, none of these cracked. They dried down, they sunk down, so they had like a little bit of a divot. I could have topped them back up if I wanted to. I didn't. But they dried wonderfully. No issues at all. So I loved that. There's the lid. Just sets on top here. I had it set on top while they were drying so that nothing would, get into them. But I have been using this. Even when I haven't been using these lately, I've been using this palette. I have been using the lid. Like, the heck out of it. Such a great price for this set, and it is linked below. And check that out. Definitely recommend. The size is perfect, especially for my desk. If you have a compact space, like, this is perfect. And I was like really concerned it was going to be hard to get the paint out of these little tiny wells, and it really is not. So yeah, I definitely like that. And then the rinse well, again, I went in here with a dirty brush a couple times. Had I not, this would still be clean. And I think having the paint puck stuck in the bottom makes all the difference in the world. But this, I'm loving it. Again, this is porcelain, and this is heavier than you think. I don't know if Rob's still here, but I know he just got his in today. So he can probably pipe in and let you know, like, that's heavy. It is not light. It's not going anywhere. You put water in that on your desk, it's staying put. So that was the other add-on that I thought you might like. So I'm already trying to think of or come up with the next curated collection that I might create for you guys. If you are enjoying them, please do give a thumbs up and drop me a comment and let me know, because I want to know, do you want to see more like these? How often do you want to see them? Do you want me to do them monthly? I plan on, when I do a curated collection, I will share it with you during the first week of the month, so that if anybody wants to order it, they have time to order it and get it in. And then about week number 3 to week 4, I will be just using those supplies a lot in the videos here on the channel and during the live stream, so that you can not only see it in action, but maybe you get it in and you have some questions. And this is a perfect time for you to pop on, ask me live, and get some interaction and maybe some help. So I hope that you find that beneficial. I hope that you like this idea of a curated collection. You don't ever have to get an art subscription box again that gives you duplicate items of things you already have in your studio, or supplies that you don't necessarily care for. I just thought that this was kind of a better approach to that. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to remember to pause or skip a month. You just get the things that you choose and to get and want to have. We always start with an opening, like a box opening, and sharing what the supplies are, and just kind of giving a quick overview. And then we actually paint again, like I said, in weeks 3 and 4. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed painting. If you did paint along, please drop me a comment. Let me know. Share it on social media. You can join the art group, Exploring Art. The links are all in the description. We'd love to see what you create over there, and we'd love for you to join us. So yeah, thank you. Huge thank you to patrons and members. Welcome to all of the new members today. If you were gifted a membership from Rob, definitely go to the channel, click on the community tab, and look for the post that you'll know it. Should only be a couple down, that tells you how to connect Discord to YouTube, and then you can join us on the Discord server. We have some new people that have popped in over there, and yeah, say hello, chat. If I post something or share something, it's there first. So all right, I'm gonna pop another video up that right over here that you might like to see next if you're watching this on the replay. Until next time, my friends, keep creating. I'm gonna see you in a video real soon. Thanks for sticking with me today. I hope you enjoyed this one. Check out the mods, and I will catch you next time. Bye.